You're good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the February SLT meeting. Dr. Haber is going to be facilitating today's meeting, so I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you, Shabali. So, introduction and the acceptance of the minutes. Everyone's received, or you should have received the minutes. And insofar as you're all minute readers, does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
Make sure it looks both ways. Oh, this is the SLT meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad's.
Yeah, he is.
Tell your dad.
You have a ring light?
Mm-hmm.
So insofar if there's no corrections to the minutes, I would ask that someone make a motion pass the minutes from the January to 2022 SLT meeting. Okay, Ms. Zhang, is that a motion? Okay, and a second, Ms. Zhang. Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand, please. That is clearly the majority. Thank you. So minutes are passed. And now we will move into the updates. And we'll start with the principal's update.
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Haber. And just one quick note, Ms. Wu Wong also sent the revised December notes. So just as an FYI, I think we made those corrections. So if everyone got a chance to look at that. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see everyone. Albeit we just saw each other a very short time ago. Just a few updates in terms of kind of overall school aspect. Report cards went out today. Ms. Ingram, we sent it out via electronically, and again was available through TELUS. We provided the directions. There might have been a little bit of glitch, but I think we course corrected on that. So students and families, again, you can look at report cards from the fall term. They are available to you via TELUS. And again, if there's any request for a hard copy, please let us know. We can work with you. This is the start of the spring term. So again, I know there's lots of changes and things that are happening as we're moving forward into preparing for this spring term and diving right in. So again, really excited about the second part of the school year. And again, I think just want to say, congratulations to the students and the staff. I think, we weren't sure what to expect in the first part. We've had to make some adjustments along the way, and again, really proud of the effort and overall just energy and positivity through it all, because it's been challenging to say the least, and we've had to make adjustments along the way. As we're going into spring, in addition to all the academics and the regular school day, we have a lot of different activities that are going to be taking place throughout the spring. It's going to be a busy several months. We have Sty Squad, we have Sing, all the different performances and events that are, tradition for us, and really all trying to work together to make all of this happen. So again, I know the students have been working really hard with our advisors and working alongside administration and our school staff to try to fit everything into our auditorium. And there's still some decisions that still need to be made, but I appreciate everyone's compromises in all of this. Again, we want to make sure that we can get to as many performances and activities, but there are some constraints that we have, and we want to make sure that, Sty Squad, Sing, our musical performances, STC, all of the things that we want to see happen throughout the spring still continue to happen. And again, it's going to continue to take some partnership and compromise, but really just want to say thank you for all of that, being able to make it happen. SAT and AP exams, information has been going out. SAT for our juniors, and then AP information will soon be sent to students and families about registration. Information is going out to our staff as well. So expect to see more communication in the coming weeks, particularly around making sure that we get everyone on the same page with any next steps or requirements. We want to just get the communication out as quickly and as soon as we can, so that everyone can take the necessary steps to be prepared for when when the SAT takes place and when the AP exams. SAT will be on March 23rd, and we will be providing more information to students and families and staff as we're continuing to plan out that day. And then again, AP exams are throughout May, which will provide more information as each of the different tests again are going to be administered. Lots of information, but again, trying to get some preliminary information out to everyone. And then graduation, we are been in talks about graduation date and venue. We will provide that shortly. We are still trying to solidify everything in terms of the venue and then the date. So again, not trying to be vague about this, but want to make sure that that's out there in terms of letting people know that we have that on top of our minds and really trying to get that solidified so that we can get information out. I know Mr. Palazzo is working to draft a letter that, again, will give more details, and that should be coming out shortly. All in all, just a lot of things happening in respects to, whether it's different extracurricular or performances, along with trying to get through the regular school day. We still are under COVID conditions. So again, trying to make sure we're also remaining healthy and safe throughout. We're anticipating we're going to continue to receive more guidance on any potential adjustments or changes that we may see, whether, again, it's related to quarantining or, again, the distribution of test kits. We're preparing for all of that and continue to make adjustments along the way. The good news is it's moving in the right direction in respects to declining in terms of positive cases, and we're hoping that that will continue to happen. So things can not necessarily get back to normal, but things will become, again, open up so that we can have more opportunities that we've had. But just again, excited about the spring term with all the different things that are going to unfold. And again, I'm glad. Just want to say thank you to everyone for their time and energy and partnership in all of this.
Thank you, Principal Yu. And now we'd ask for an update from staff. Be Ms. Daves.
Yeah, certainly. The UFT update is the consultative committee has finalized the voting guide, and staff will be voting on SBOs on February 14th. And beyond that, the UFT has been working, I've been working with Dr. Haber on working on planning for the 22-23 school year with dates for planning for program preference sheets and compensatory time positions, which means something for the teachers, not so much for the students. And also I was working collaborating with the AP Prabhu to update the staff handbook for the spring term that went out this week. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. And now we'd ask for an update from the parents.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Haber. A couple of things on our plate. We are actually, so this Sunday, we have this great event that is called Cooking with Sty, special edition, Lunar Year edition. So anyone didn't sign up, please do. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And this is kicking off, or continuing kicking off our big Spring Feast drive. So a lot of activities, and Spring Feast Day is May 6th. Please mark your calendars. So that's something that, I mean, literally we've been gearing and working towards that great day since late September. Our academic affairs has been hard at work, and we've been working on things that matters to parents. Actually, during the EB meeting last night, we had further conversations following the some additional points we were hoping to bring up to administration. And so this is something that we, academic affairs is going to bring up, kind of related points to the course catalog and other things that we thought that would be useful to families and students. Our tech committee has been hard at work and is actually partners, has been supporting the STC, helping them to film the STC production, the winter drama. They are partnering with Sty Squad this coming Friday on helping them film the event, the recording, and also helping the helping with the setup of the hybrid meeting for the February 16th event for the Black and Latinx families. We are also, actually we had our college committee is working quite hard, and we really appreciate the time from our college office and Ms. Ingram, Principal Yu, Ms. Frederick on, this was a really good discussion with the college office and the college team. So it was great that we have a follow-up conversation set for late March, and we'll send some notes with a couple of takeaways both for our side and for the college office team. These are some of the key things, and I think that's all that I want to say. And if it would be possible, Dr. Haber, it would be great to know the things that the teachers, the staff, Ms. Daves, if you could comment on things that your team is going to be voting on, like if that impacts the school community, if there are other things that will be helpful to know.
Dr. Haber, did you want to say anything specifically about that?
No, it's a specific question. But you're talking about the compensatory time positions, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, some of those positions, Mr. Shafran, are things like the teachers are going to vote if we have an extra dean. They're going to vote on, if the music, art, and tech department is going to have one of those teachers teach a less class to act as a music coordinator to help put on the concerts and do things of that nature. And also in our mathematics and computer science department, we have had a staff member who has been our director of computer science. So that position needs to be renewed. And there are a number of positions along those lines that are affect the school structure. And there's another thing that, like, which day are faculty meetings, Mondays or Wednesdays, which, not too impactful.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks
So,
very much.
Mr. Shafran, what I'll just add to what Ms. Dave said, there's a careful balance between comp time positions or compensatory time positions and the teaching and then the number of classes that are able to be taught, that because it reduces teacher power. At the same time, it makes the school run much better. And that's why we look to balance these, and in this case, the UFT will vote on whether or not we'll have each of the positions themselves were first decided upon by a conference between the principal and the UFT chapter chair. That would be Ms. Daves.
And the
Thank you.
consultative
Very
committee,
helpful.
and the positions that are on the ballot are subject to budget. We don't get our budget until later. So essentially, positions that are voted in will exist as long as the budget could support that to happen, which plays into Dr. Haber's statement about the balance.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Which actually just brings up another point. One thing that PA is also doing is that we're kicking off our budgetary discussions early this year, planning the budget and building the budget for next year. And that is done so we could have enough time to meet with the administration and do outreach to various departments that we currently support, music department, art department, PSL, and just to really understand and build what are the projected needs for next year. So we're really taking in the past years, we would start that process in late April, and sometimes that's just way too late. That doesn't give folks enough time. So we're shifting this forward, and we're having a special committee to focus on it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Shafran.
Thank you.
And now for an update from the students, Shabbat.
Yeah. So we have primarily been gearing up for our Sing show, which is happening next month. Crews and casts and everything have been selected by the coordinators in their respective productions. And we're dealing with merch right now and making sure that all the rehearsals are running smoothly with the help of the administration, of course. We also have been working closely with the freshman seminars we got a bunch of student leaders from the identity clubs to work with the counselors who are leading the seminars around race and inclusivity. And those have been going really well. I was lucky enough to participate in, I think, like 2 last week. And then we're also gearing up for next year's seminars. And we met with the counselors and a small group of student leaders to figure out different topics that would be helpful for freshmen to hear about from students directly, which we are super excited to help facilitate. We also have been planning a bunch of speaker series events. So we have 2 this week, one around career and entrepreneurship, and then one around kidney donations. We are also about to send out an interest form for our career fair with the Parents Association to figure out which types of careers students want to hear back from this year. The Indicator, which is Stuyvesant's yearbook, is doing their annual Valentine's Day flower sales. So we've been helping with budgeting in that, but that's very much run by the Indicator. So however we can support, we've been supporting. And then we're also doing like a Valentine's Day Spirit Week this week. And then in this meeting, we're going to be presenting our results from our inclusivity survey for non-binary and gender non-conforming students, which we have been working really hard on. So that's the updates from us.
Thank you, Shivali. And we may be calling upon you again now for the next part of the SLT, the February SLT meeting, which is the SU presentation on gender neutral bathrooms.
Dr. Haber, before they go, just one quick note. I forget. I also wanted to say this week, every week is National School Counselor Week. So we want to just say a big thank you to all our school and college counselors for all the work that they do and be able to recognize those conversations and smiles and energy that they put forth. So just when you get to see your counselor, please say thank you.
Well, thank you, Principal Yu, for that. And we can now move on to our SU presentation on gender neutral bathrooms. Shivali.
Can you all see that? Okay, cool. So, hello everyone, my name is Shivali. I'm the SU president and I'm a senior. Recently, the SU released a survey to students who identify as gender non-binary or gender non-conforming, which we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But the survey was primarily centered around how we as the Stuyvesant community can be more inclusive and more aware of the fact that there is an increased population of students who identify as non-binary at Stuyvesant. And because this is somewhat of a recent increase, we want to make sure that we're not just ignoring and kind of letting this trend go by. We want to make sure that we're taking actionable steps to create an environment that is more inclusive and respectful of their identity, because it's not something we've been doing in the past. I also very quickly just want to give a shout out to McStuzen for being a constant supporter of our efforts throughout this process. As student representatives on the SLT, none of us identify as non-binary or not gender non-conforming, but we have made an effort to hear back from students directly throughout this process, and we can hope to continue doing that throughout our advocacy. So you'll see testimonials throughout this and data from students directly, because we want to make sure that those voices and those stories are being uplifted directly. The basic setup for this presentation is sharing our data results and then some of our takeaways. And we have 3 asks that we'll go over at the end. And then we're going to open the floor to thoughts and questions. So if anything comes up throughout the meeting, we're going to ask that they just are held on till the end. So just to get started, I'm going to pass it off to Ryan.
Everyone, my name is Ryan Lee. I'm the Student Union Vice President, and you guys have probably seen me before around. So first off, with just the survey and a little breakdown of some of the data that we have. We had a total of 84 respondents with a 78 gender non-binary, gender non-conforming students responding, and along with 6 transgender/queer students. And to break down further, we had 14.5% freshmen, 26.5% sophomores, 41% juniors, and 18.1% juniors. I also like to note that note that there are a lot of also other gender non-binary / gender non-conforming students within STI, and this is only a small fraction of like how many of them are actually inside the school building. So with just a little bit more of the breakdown in like who's who within this data. So as presented above, we have 24 gender fluid students, 40 gender non-binary, 18 gender non-conforming, 17 queer, and 20 transgender. And again, it's also note that if you were to add it up, it does not exactly add up to 84. And that's because many of these students identify more than one of these sort of different identities that we've listed below. And while we're just getting started within this sort of presentation, it is important to know some of the terms, just in case for those that may not know or would like a sort of clarification. So with gender non-binary students and gender non-conforming students especially, they're both sort of very interrelated terms, but to go with the first one, gender non-binary, it's essentially a person that does not identify as a man or a woman, and non-binary people can either be both male and female or neither, and they can identify as whatever they please or whatever they didn't, or something different from, say, their birth gender. And then similarly with gender non-conforming students, not all gender non-conforming people are non-binary. However, you can sort of think of them as people that just don't associate with their gender that they associate with, like, for example, like very common examples like a boy doing like quote unquote girly things and vice versa. And this all sort of compounds to this idea of the gender dysphoria, which according to the American Psychiatrists Association is sort of this sort of enigma of like confusion and condition within like different people that sort of that have this sort of sense of distress within their given birth identity. Oh, and then I think that's pretty much it. So I will be passing that on to Neff.
Hi, everybody. I think the slide might be frozen. Is it frozen for everybody else? Okay, there we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Nev. I'm the SLT representative for the student union. And I just want to talk about our first ask, which is the implementation of another gender neutral restroom for students at Stuyvesant. This has come up at Stuyvesant before, at SLT before. And like, we think that is really imperative. It's one of the biggest asks that Sty Spectrum has, and also the student body in general has, because, you know, it's one of the basic necessities of the non-binary community at Stuyvesant that hasn't been met yet. So in our survey, we asked first to use gender neutral restroom, and it was interesting to find that 54.5% of students, 54.8% use it. And obviously this isn't really a question about preference, but really a matter of necessity. You know, it's easy to presume that most students, if not all, would prefer to use the gender neutral restroom, but it's just not feasible when you have over 88 non-binary students trying to use that restroom. There's only one of them and it's single stall. So this really just shows like the initial detriment to only having one bathroom, which is that the majority, not the majority, but almost the majority of students actually end up not using it, which, you know, leads to gender dysphoria, which Ryan was discussing earlier. So obviously this correlates to the last slides. Over 40 students strongly agree that they struggle to access gender neutral bathroom at Sty. This is because of location. There's only one on the 5th floor, and if you have a class on the 10th floor or on the 2nd floor, you're not going to be able to make it back there in time. Obviously it's single stall, so there are students using it there the day, and oftentimes it's occupied. And, you know, struggling to access the bathroom is, you know, something that nobody should face. It's not a luxury or a privilege. It's just using the bathroom. It's just basic hygiene. So, you know, I think that this really exemplifies how much a necessity it is for non-binary community at Stuyvesant to have another gender neutral restroom. If over 40 students are if over half of the non-binary students aren't able to access it every single day, it shows that there's definitely a necessity for another one. And this correlates to the students would benefit from having another gender neutral restroom. So obviously the students who struggle do think that like the best solution would be to have another one. And so obviously the data is very clear that most students, I think probably most, if not all students, would strongly agree that having another gender neutral restroom would solve these issues. And we understand that there's, an issue of space, but I hope that this data just shows that, I mean, I know it's hard to find space, but these students really, really need it. And it's something that they go through the entire day thinking about. If a student thinks about how much water they're going to drink in a day, how much food they're going to eat in a day, just because they don't know if they'll be able to use a restroom or not. That's not something that we should be worrying about, especially not when we have work and everything else to worry about. So I just hope that this data sort of signifies that there's a real demand within the student body for another restroom. So we have some quotes from different students, non-binary students who filled out this survey. I won't read them. You guys can, I don't want to take up too much time, but one quote that I really liked was, having a gender neutral restroom is important for feeling valid and comfortable to be myself and still receive the same basic hygiene rights as other students. Going into a bathroom that is gendered as a non-binary student feels really alienating, and it really feels dysphoric, especially because we're so young and we're so impressionable, and also a lot of students are still quite ignorant. So I think that it really, there is no second option for these students. It's either they don't go to the bathroom at all, or they wait in line, or they plan out their entire day around using this one bathroom, and that's just like an inconvenience and accessibility that is not, it shouldn't be happening for any student at all. And like they said, it's just a basic hygiene right. It's just using the restroom. It shouldn't have to be a privilege. So yeah, that's the final point. That's the final slide about the gender neutral restrooms. But yeah, we just wanted to emphasize that we think this is a really, really important step towards supporting the non-binary community at Stuyvesant. It's something tangible that we can do sooner rather than later, that I think would really positively impact the community and would definitely, just increase the health and safety of the non-binary community at Stuyvesant.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle H. Chan, and I'm a student alternate for the SLT. I'm currently a sophomore at Stuyvesant. So while our original conversation in the student leadership team surrounded bathrooms, we do want to acknowledge the general apathy Stuyvesant has shown towards non-binary students, despite the noticeable increase in students embracing their gender identity in this generation. An important part of feeling comfortable with one's identity is pronoun usage. So our first graph shows what students think about Stuyvesant staff and their usage of preferred pronouns. The largely neutral result may indicate that there is some tension between students and teachers. We want students to feel fully comfortable, so this data is extremely upsetting for us to see. In a perfect world, all responses would strongly agree with the fact that all staff use their preferred pronouns. Okay, this slide shows the student-student interactions when it comes to pronoun preference. Although slightly better among students, it's still a big problem. And it's important to note that this isn't just an issue within the staff and that everyone should take steps to combat it. So like I said before, we also hope that these responses are all strongly agreed. Okay. This slide shows the comfortability of students when they correct people who misuse their preferred pronouns. Self-advocacy skills vary, and we should make sure that STI creates a supportive environment for growing teenagers to speak up for themselves. And it's just frankly very disheartening to see these very spread, but also very disagreeing responses. An overwhelming population of the students who filled out this form do not think that STI does enough to support gender non-binary / non-conforming members of the community. We've shown the growing population of the community, but pretty much nothing has been done. There's a new situation and demographic that we should adapt to, and our proposals represent the first step in this process. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so with that said, and as from that data, it's safe to say that the experience is pretty far from good. And so with that said, another thing we included in our survey was just sort of a question asking what has the experience for transgender and gender non-conforming students at STI has been. We also have some quotes below, which I won't get into, but it's also important to note that within this survey, we had tens of more of different responses that basically resonate the same message. And it really does sort of boil it down to these sort of issues where for example, number one, just this sort of uncomfortableness with these different students between like staff, student, and even students themselves with, say, lack of pronoun usage and the lack of comfortability with these students actually correcting them. And another thing that it really does reflect as well is just STI's sort of lack of inclusivity. As we mentioned, as we've shown before, like this is not only sort of a survey on just getting a gender neutral bathroom, but also pushing for being more inclusive to these students and their lifestyle as a whole. And it's really important to emphasize this fact because these are students too. These are the same students that we go to class with, we teachers talk to, and these are just people that are also just wanting to have normal school lives. So it's very important that we emphasize this fact and sort of emulate a better experience for these students.
Yeah. So just to end this presentation, that was all the data we collected from the survey. And based on both the testimonials and discussions we've had with various students, we concluded our findings into three main asks. Our three asks include an additional gender neutral bathroom, an optional pronoun feature, or some sort of consolidated space where students can place their pronouns for staff to find. And then presentations specifically for staff and students around inclusivity and bringing awareness to pronoun usage and also the experiences of gender non-binary students. Mainly because we understand that it can be a difficult concept to learn and understand, but we also know that it's not something you can kind of just push aside. So implementing that directly into the Stuyvesant either curriculum or PD sessions is really vital for us. Just to go more specifically into all of this, the additional bathroom, as Nev really perfectly put it earlier, it's unfair and generally unrealistic to assume that over 80 students can use the restroom on the 5th floor and also the nurse's office, which has a restroom. Although I will say, I think a lot of students, what we gathered was that they usually don't go to the nurse's restroom just because it's sort of out of the way and also confined and isn't publicized as much as the 5th floor one is. It's also important to note that not only are students using this bathroom for restroom purposes, but also to change for gym. So the double usage for over 80 students is overwhelming, and there's not really an accessible place to do basic human hygiene throughout the school day. So we understand that this is a difficult ask, and considering the space that we have at STI, it's probably something that will take more than just a month to figure out. But we do ask that the communication around limitations and DOE rules surrounding staff for student bathrooms is communicated openly. And we also hope to have updates consistently throughout the SLT meetings as the months go by. Yeah. I don't think that worked. Yeah. Our next ask was the optional pronoun feature, which is something that was brought up in the last meeting we had and also in a lot of the testimonials. One of the testimonials earlier mentioned how it's very difficult for students to either change their pronoun preferences with teachers, and it's also really difficult to be the odd one out in a classroom, going up to a teacher saying, hey, these are my pronouns, if you could use them, I'd really appreciate it. As Kyle mentioned, we obviously want to promote self-advocacy, and we know that's an important thing that STI promotes, but it can be kind of isolating and scary to be the only person in the classroom to go up to your teacher and correct them. And so we hope that, one, there's an option for students to make their preferences shown on an online site, things like Pupil Path, Talos, are all sites that every single person at STI is using and accessing. However, we also recognize that not every student is out to their families, and a standard practice that we would like staff to implement into their classroom is a beginning of the year survey indicating what students' preferred pronouns are, and also whether those pronouns are the same ones they use with their family. A few of the testimonials also mentioned how one or two teachers maybe do that in the beginning of the year, and that really has set the tone for a classroom environment of inclusivity for them. So the last ask is presentations and awareness for staff working directly with non-binary STI students. I think last meeting, we can all agree that it was really, really powerful to hear directly from students' experiences. And I think it opened up our eyes to a lot of the unknown issues we have at STI. And I mean, it's easy to say that this doesn't impact that many students, but hopefully this presentation has shown you that this impacts over 80 students, which is not a small number whatsoever. So creating a space in professional development sessions would be really important and show how the staff is committed to creating a more respectful environment. We also would like to continue, like as a student union, we would like to continue bringing awareness on the student-to-student interactions, because obviously that is an issue, as our data showed earlier, and we are working internally to figure that out as well. We're thinking about doing more communication through social media and videos and infographics that could be accessible to all students about these issues. So that has been the conclusion of our presentation. We are really thankful for you guys to take the time to listen to us and hear this data. We hope that it made some impact on your opinion of these issues. And without further ado, I think we are ready for questions or thoughts from all of you.
Great, then Ms. Pedrick.
I just wanted to say thank you to the students for undertaking this survey and presenting it in a way that feels very accessible to each of our constituencies here and anybody who's listening in. So given us a lot to think about and really good ask. So thank you.
Do we have Mr. Henderson?
I think Mr. Shaffron was first.
Mr. Shaffron.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I actually, I mean, first I would like to really echo what Ms. Pedrick said. It's not, I mean, I really appreciate hearing this presentation in the form you have delivered, and I really would like, and we're going to do our best to also share it with the parent community. I think it's really, really helpful and really helpful information. And I personally actually I continue learning about our community. So thank you, truly thank you for that. One point I just wanted to bring up as I was just processing information, it's interesting because your studies suggest that there are at least, as you mentioned, at least 80 students, but likely more because I assume the survey is much, many students did not respond. And if you even looking at the, as a proper target, if you look at the New York State kind of guidance of how many bathrooms should be per student, assuming that the students simply cannot use or don't feel comfortable using other places, it should be at least one lavatory or one bathroom per student, but likely for convenience it should be more. So the target, the longer term target should really be considered as something more, but I understand we need to work with what's realistic. But again, I think it's important to understand what the real ask is when the when we kind of come forward and look at that. So but again, thank you for raising this issue, and thank you for speaking of all these topics.
Thank you, Mr. Shaffron. Now, Mr. Henderson.
Thanks. I have one quick comment and then a quick question, actually. I wonder if it will be useful if we have a place on Talos for pronouns, preferred pronouns, if we could also have a place on Talos for preferred name, or sort of, and some of that, I mean, there's different uses for that. Some of that might be gender-based and some of that might be other things. Just a thing to put out there. The question I had was for Ms. Pedrick, actually. I think, are there like city or state kind of regulations around how we deal with, not deal with, but how we support gender non-conforming students?
Yes, there are chancellor's regulations on the topic. So maybe perhaps Dr. Haber, that's something we can resend out in your APO update.
Certainly. Certainly. Mr. Henderson, was that, did you have another question, or that was the extent of the question?
That was, I guess that was my main question. I just wonder how they would, how those regulations would inform the conversation we're having now, as in, like, are we required perhaps to have bathrooms, or are we required to, how do we deal with the sort of like questions of safety for students, around feeling unsafe because of parents or feeling unsafe because of students. I mean, it seems like that's something that should be part of this conversation, that there's probably regulations.
Yes, Mr. Henderson, and as Ms. Pedrick said, the chancellor's regs do address this, and we will disseminate the same. Dr. Nebudik, more?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Couple questions. And Dr. Haber, you and I had spoken about this a couple of times. So the first one is about the practical implementation. I'm wondering kind of if there's like an earmarked space for this, because, you know, it's a very specific ask. So I wanted you to be able to address like whether you have a place in mind for this. And the pronouns thing, I just want someone to address like how that information would be protected, because 2 meetings ago we talked about this and there was a concern about parents getting access to it when it's not something that the student necessarily wanted the parents to know. And the other thing is that 84 number, I don't think that's representative at all. I think that it's I wouldn't say it, maybe it's possibly double that. There are a lot of people who are either trying to figure it out or who desperately don't want anyone to know. Yeah. So it is legit possible that we're talking about a number that's significantly greater than that number under 100. And I just want to make that clear to everybody, because most people live their lives into, you know, advanced adulthood, not telling anyone when they have these concerns and the way they identify. The education part, it would be really wonderful if we could, can you still hear me? Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
It'd be really great if we could integrate this with staff, because I know for a fact that I'm still learning about this, and also that there are a ton of people who are still like really sort of trying to grasp these terms that I work with, and just people in general that I know. And I also want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Dr. Nedvig Moore. I just want to, I'm going to just respond to one of the questions as far as the gender neutral bathrooms. Please know that administration is looking at this. There's proposals on the table at this time, and we're studying this, and more information will be forthcoming. Principal Yu, did you want to chime in?
Yeah. So just first of all, again, thanks for the presentation. I think, you know, one of the things that our students do an incredible job is you're at a much faster pace than we are, and most of the adults. All the things that you're bringing up are the things that, again, I think the foundational pieces where not only Stuyvesant, but schools and in society in general, like, right, there's a lot of learning that needs to happen, and a lot of conversations, a lot of learning, relearning. You know, when that question came about, like, you know, the chancellor's regulations, I mean, all of this is around creating an environment where young people can feel a sense of belonging and respected in the space, whether, we're talking, about CRSE, the culturally responsive education, to, again, respect for all. We're thinking about all the types of ways in which we need to find to support young people. And this is something that not only the city, but across, I think schools are trying to generally do a better job on. And it does start with a lot of education just for the adults themselves as a starting point, and clearly the students as well, in a combination of their own independent kind of learning, but also in the ways in which the school can also offer some guidance. Next week is Respect for All week, and again, all of the different ways that we're trying to bring inclusivity into the school and a sense of belonging. There's a lot to learn in respects to just some of the generational gaps that we have in our school, and a lot of good learning that we need to do, because we do want every young person, every staff member, every family member to feel comfortable and know that when they come to Stuyvesant, that we're there to try to create that environment. What I will say is a few things. One is, as Dr. Haber alluded to about the bathrooms, we have and will continue to look. We've actually pinpointed some places as possibilities, and we do need to look at some of the regulations around. Is it a ratio of bathrooms to students? And I think the state does have something, but it's antiquated as well. So these are things that we have to see. And that's good to know that in terms of the 80 students who did respond and identify. I know we said before about the nurses, the bathrooms in the nurse's office. Again, it doesn't solve all the problems by any means, but that, we're thinking about the third floor and the fifth floor. We're having to think about where and, what our logical place is, because some of this is, again, I think around travel. Where are they on the 10 floors, as well as the total number. So, the one thing that I can assure is, Shivali, you said this is like communication. We've got to do that. We don't know what the space will be just yet. But again, I think we do want to be able to make a move on the bathrooms short term. And then again, if there's ways to do it longer term, in terms of creating more restrooms, I would love to be able to do that. So, and then just from the PD perspective, I've already talked to Ms. Prabhu. She came and talked to me already about some of the different ways that we can really, offer different professional developments. And I appreciate that you, the students, want to help present. We'll definitely take you up on that offer. So again, I think there are lots of things that we can be doing, that it's not a one-time thing that needs to continue to be ongoing. But overall message is that as we're moving forward, as we're thinking about, non-binary students, to, again, all the different populations of students that we have. So a lot of work that we got to do to try to create that level of inclusivity and belonging for all students.
I know Dr. Haber just said he had to step away, but Ms. Ingram, did you want to address an earlier comment?
Yeah, Mr. Henderson had brought up about having a space to enter preferred names, and we do have that space. We actually have some preferred names already listed on Talos. So if a student does have a preferred name that they would like listed for teachers, and of course that's going to be seen on the student dashboard. So student, teacher, and parent can see that preferred name, but they can reach out to myself or Ms. Carano, Ms. Pedrick, and we will list it next to their name. So that's already there. They can list their preferred name, and we'll be happy to leave it there for them.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ingram. And Ms. Condi. I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to add something. I just wanted to say that it's a very beautiful topic, bringing out, and I totally agree with what the students are looking for, and it's the best thing they can do for their own, and even for the generation coming into school in the future years. So why not? When I'm in for this, and I totally agree with that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Condi. Ms. Torres Moskovitz.
Hi. I just wanted to add, I don't know if I can even do this as an alternate, but like challenge our SLT group to like take care to have a pathway forward on this all together this year. It'd be great to have something accomplished. We've seen the students present, and then we saw these more students present to follow up with research. And I'm more than willing to help if I can as an architect to like get through, like I just Googled local law 79 from 2016 de Blasio with gender neutral signage. With the DOB, I can research information with School Construction Authority and look at the plans if I can help out to determine, like decipher the bathroom regulations. I'm proposing like a subcommittee that gets a little more into the details. And yeah, and then I just wanted to say how profoundly useful that was a few weeks ago to hear from the students. I teach at university, and I noticed that the other professors in the program like kind of slipped from the introductions saying their pronouns, and I was like so confident in doing it this time at the beginning of the semester after hearing from the students and how important that is. I can imagine that with teachers, just as the student suggested, the training so important, and obviously hearing from someone who's a feels that and asking for that request, that I can understand where teachers' position too, where they might forget one semester, but it's I'll never forget after I heard that presentation. So anyway, I'm proposing like a subcommittee, if there could be one.
Thank you, Ms. Torres Moskovitz. Mr. Henderson, do you want to further the conversation regarding a subcommittee? Or Ms.
I'm out.
Kelly?
Although I can certainly speak to it. Shivali, do you know anything about subcommittees?
I don't.
Well,
Like maybe Miss Daves knows more than I do.
Well, so my understanding
we-
is I think we do need to have a consensus that there should be a subcommittee, and that members of the subcommittee can be from both inside the SLT and without the SLT. And then what they would do is they would have a sort of a particular goal, and then they would do whatever sort of research and work and bring that back to the SLT at a later meeting. So I think the first thing we would need is to see if there's a consensus that we ought to have a subcommittee, and then what the goals of it should be. Does that sound right, Ms. Daves?
Yes, it does. And I think we should double check the bylaws. I think it does say that for a subcommittee, you have to have a certain number of constituents from different groups on the subcommittee. There is a minimum number.
Ms. Ingram, do you want to chime in on the requirements for the subcommittee?
Not particularly, but Ms. Daves is accurate. I think you need one administrator and one from each constituency. I think there might be more than one necessary. I know you do need at least one.
Right, and I can drop it in the chat. I haven't looked at that, in about a year and a half. So I'll look it up right now and drop it in the chat. Unless someone finds it first.
Well, while Ms. Daves is looking that up and we'll drop it in the chat, we could take a poll then by raising your hand on the electronic hand. Raise hand. If in fact we wish to go forward to create a subcommittee.
Dr. Haber, can I just say something really quick?
Mhm.
Sorry, just in terms of clarification for the subcommittee would work to try to make sure that the proposal from the student that's been proposed by the students would go through. Is that just point of clarification? Is that the intent, or?
I think
doing some.
from my understanding is that they would study the issue and the proposal. Shivali,
Yeah, I also wanted to say, Principal, you mentioned earlier that you're working with Ms. Prabhu to create like these PD sessions. I think maybe the subcommittee could also be a place that we work on developing those presentations, especially if we can have student representatives that are not on the SLT. I think it would be a good time to have non-binary students present to develop that. And then I know Ms. Torres also mentioned doing research on actual spaces for bathrooms. So I think those would be our two main commitments of the subcommittee.
did you have any follow-ups, Mr. Principal Yu, on that? Okay, so let me take a screenshot to see whose hands are up right now. And if you could lower your hand for a moment, those that wish to speak, and we'll just take the poll on if we have consensus to, in fact, move forward and create this subcommittee. And at this time, I'd ask that you raise your hand, and if you are in agreement that we should move forward and create this subcommittee. All right, I have the count here. Before we go on, is there anyone that would like to speak to that they would feel that there's a reason not to have the subcommittee? If there's anyone that would feel that this would not be the way we should be moving forward. Okay. All right, there's interest on the amongst the SLT members to form a subcommittee, and so we will go ahead and do that. We will create a form and email it so that you can then join the subcommittee.
Ms. Daves, do we need to select subcommittee chair right now, or?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't know who's fully on it at the moment. So you can wait until the first meeting.
Thank you for that question, Shivali. All right, then. We had other questions. There were other participants that had questions on the SU presentation on gender neutral bathrooms and the like. If you could raise your hand now, I believe, let's see. If you raise your hand now, if you have a question, that you wanted to pose. Okay, then. I don't have any raised hands at this time. And so we would move on to our next topic on the agenda, on the SLT agenda, and that is a share out of the quality of content and college readiness. Mr. Yu, would you do the introductions?
Sure. So, I mean, this is I think pretty timely. I've asked Ms. McCullough, Ms. Fong, and Ms. Prabhu to come because I want to talk a little bit about different elements of this. One of the things that I think COVID has done is really, again, made us examine just overall, how are we supporting and preparing young people for life after Stuyvesant? I think what we are known for is providing a challenging educational experience for young people, particularly in all the classes, the number of classes that students have. And a lot of that is all geared towards moving not only to graduation requirements, but STI endorsement, which is essentially fairly equivalent to an advanced regents and a little bit more. So we're asking young people to really get a wealth of exposure to a variety of subject areas while also having 4 years math and science, 4 years English, history, and then a variety of electives that, again, kind of are sprinkled throughout those subject areas, including art, music, as well as tech, and again in computer science and a variety of courses. So I think that's really an important part of who we are, is to try to give a well-rounded experience. And I think it's a really good starting point for us. I think one of the things as we're moving forward, and particularly as we think about what young people are going to face after high school, there's a few things that I think we're going to have to take a closer look on kind of multiple levels. One is just at the higher ed, when kids are going into college. I think there's a few things that we're wanting to ensure is that, one, that when they do find the college of their choice and in their match, that ideally they will have had exposure at the high school level to make some determinations about what they might want to major in. Not every kid is going to know that right off the bat, but I think with the way that we have constructed our kind of program for high school, is that the hope is that there would be exposure to a variety of subject areas, and particularly the ones that kids are interested in. But also to take a look at what are the skills that are going to be needed, not only to be ready for college, but afterwards as well. And I think we're starting to see a lot more of the different soft skills that are really important. Teamwork, collaboration, persistence, resilience, all of the things and ways and that young people are having to not only grapple with information, but synthesize it and then figuring out how to apply it, not only for themselves individually, but across multiple teams or other people. So with that being said, I think there's a few things that I think are really important for us that make Stuyvesant who we are and which we want to continue. And I think this is what we're known for, is the courses. And so things that we have offered in respects to our core courses, but also our electives. I think this is something that we want to continue to have and for us to have to update. And we're fortunate that we've got a wonderful teaching staff who have an abundance of interest and expertise, who do offer kind of different ideas about courses that we might want to put into the course catalog. So one, I think that is something that we want to continue and really try to cultivate more. I think this is something that, again, has made us unique, to offer as many types of courses that really, again, allow kids to have exposure to areas that they might be interested in. That, in course, means that we need to be up to date with all the things that are current, as well as the different professional development. But those are one of the things that, again, and we'll talk a little bit about this as Ms. McAuliffe and Ms. Fong and Ms. Prabhu, but courses is something that we have one way that we can continue to think about college readiness and preparation, because I think, again, it allows exposure and access for students. But the other thing that's really also integral to what we do, which are equally important, I think, to the classes, are the different competitions, extracurricular activities, and opportunities and offerings that happen outside of the classroom, but that are so connected, whether it's, again, like Science Olympics, Olympiad, whether it's robotics, speech and debate, all of those skills that kids are going to develop that's complementary to what they're learning inside the classroom, we want to continue to have. And again, I think, the one things that allow us to do is kids get to showcase some of their talents and their hard work through these competitions, through these offerings, these opportunities, whether that's from Mr. Blum's, email that goes out with all of the different opportunities. I think we need to continue to provide that as much as possible, and figure out if there are other ones that we want to bring to the table so that more students have access. The key things around that, though, that I want to stress is that the courses and these different complementary offerings really are a few things. One is to allow kids to kind of explore their interest across different subject areas. And I think, again, that's an important piece that we need to continue to do, because, again, as students are going into college, we really want to think about, the sooner they can know about what they might possibly want to major in, I think the better. And particularly if we can offer that at the high school level as a kind of vehicle for, when they go to college. The other things is skills development. And again, I think this is one of which where we as a staff are, needing to continue to learn the ways that we think about our content, the ways that we deliver our content, and the pedagogy. And this is a lot to do with, that we saw under COVID, which is the dependence on technology, and how we are helping young people to not only just be the consumers of technology, but creators and users in a way that, again, it's going to be applicable in their lives. And then lastly is the credentials. I mean, I think one of the things that we know that we have really taken pride in is our STI endorsement, kids getting advanced regents diplomas, and the other credentials, whether it's winning an award or winning a competition, I think it's important. We know that that carries weight for our young people. We also know that it makes them competitive. We got to find the balance in all of this. I want to stress, but I think these are the things, and really thinking about, again, how are the ways that we're staying current. I had an interesting, conversation as in terms of talking to the PA grants committee about just our facilities in general. And I think one of the things that, I'd love to see continue to happen is that Stuyvesant is a hub for excellence, and meaning that not only for our current students, but for our communities, students who may be prospective students, but other students who may not necessarily have all the opportunities and offerings that we can provide. But thinking about just, again, our school as a hub for excellence is trying to match our physical space with all the things that we want to do, and again, that requires us to be current, and so there's a tremendous amount of work that we've got to do, particularly as I think education in general has shifted, and what's going to be asked of young people, not just in the next 2-3 years, but again 10 years from now. And as we're thinking about that, Ms. Fong, Ms. McAuliffe, and Ms. Prabhu, I'm going to ask them to touch a little bit on the things that they're doing in their departments, and the ways that we want to support teachers in terms of their development as well. But overall, I think, again, this is something that we need to continue to do, and we'll be, want to take advantage of working with the PA and their subcommittees, because I think there's a lot of resources there that we need to be leveraging a little bit more, particularly around the ways that we can think about overall skills development, curriculum, and just, again, the ways that we are preparing young people for college and career. So let me turn it over to Ms. Let me turn it over to Ms. Prabhu just to talk a little bit about some of the teacher support and development that we're thinking of.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mimi Prabhu, Assistant Principal of Teacher Development and Support, as well as a biology teacher at Stuyvesant. And like Principal, you mentioned, we have so many amazing students in our school, and they do so many things, but we do want to make sure that we're kind of giving them a lot of those skills, not just the content, because they're wonderful at that. A lot of our alum come back and they feel really prepared for college. But what about the workforce? It's kind of a totally different story. Some of the jobs and careers that they'll take on, they maybe don't even exist yet. So we want to make sure that we're looking ahead, thinking ahead. And in doing that, we also want to make sure that we're supporting teachers to help give those types of skills and experiences to our students. One of the first things that we do is our first year teachers are matched with a veteran teacher as part of our mentoring program. And we also have a tenure team, which helps teachers in their probationary period, which is about 4 years, when they enter the classroom. And that's going to help them to reflect and improve their teaching skills. And we've seen a really great bridge there with the expertise of our veteran staff, new ideas from our non-tenured teachers, and that's helping to expand the teaching toolkit across all of our different departments here at STI. And a large shift in teaching practice, I would say maybe the past 5 years, we've really seen a change, is we've seen an increase in student-centered learning and opportunities for student-to-student interaction, and moving away from strictly teacher lectures. Again, our brilliant students, we want to make sure that they know how to articulate and communicate all of these new ideas that they're gaining, and understand what collaborative skills are that promote kind of a team mentality and success. Because again, I think that's one thing that they're going to see a bigger transition when they go to college, when they're in the workforce. So making sure they have those skills. And creating multiple entry points for student learning and support for those who may struggle in different ways, not just academically. I know, for example, the guidance department has really helped students understand self-advocacy, what it is, how to navigate that. I know Ms. Maggio has been a huge proponent in our hydroponics lab, and we're going to have brand new courses that really help put problem solving in the true world. Maybe I'm a little biased as a biology person, but I think it's a huge calling for our student generation. And so we're thrilled to have a space that we can kind of give this field the attention that it deserves. And then lastly, on the professional development as a whole, we do encourage and support professional development. In fact, we have over 15 staff members participating in a workshop provided through Columbia University about culturally responsive sustaining education, and just thinking about our students first as we design curriculum rather than content first. And I know Mr. Sunwoo has also been working on that tirelessly the last few years. So just trying to bring these things together to all of our staff. And, you know, there's not just these opportunities. We have Department of Education, lots of different organizations outside that teachers participate in as well. So they're always searching for opportunities, and we're here to definitely support them so that it can get to our students in the classroom. And I think that's my quick summary, and I'm happy to answer questions, I think, at the end, but we really are thinking as much as we can about what are our student needs, how can we support teachers to get there to help all of our students.
Ms. McAuliffe, why don't you go?
Sure. Good evening, and thank you for the introduction. I'm going to speak a little bit about the college and career skills that students gain as a result of taking our art, music, and world language courses. Of course, if there are any ideas from faculty and from students, we're always taking those. STI has a STEM Goes Red Club, which was promoted by student Avni Garg. We had a recently new added art course by one of our educators newly hired last year. So please bring the ideas. Students are able to effectively discuss, recognize, appreciate world art and relevant terms. As a result of the direct visual art instruction provided at Stuyvesant, students are able to produce pieces for gallery exhibition and citywide projects or competitions. We have had students' work selected to be displayed at the Met, in the Art in Schools showcase, and for the annual Scholastic's Best Teen Art publication. Recently, students had a meet and greet Q&A session with global street artist Vexta, who shared her process for mural making, including our new geometric inspired piece on the 4th floor. Students also utilize their artistic ability when creating backdrops and costumes for shows, including our upcoming Sing and STC performances. Creating and understanding aesthetically pleasing work, spaces, and presentations serves adults in all facets of home and professional life. Creating and understanding art as it relates to our times, history, and the future inspires viewers and is a skill Stuyvesant students possess as a result of our introductory and elective art course offerings. In music, students gain appreciation for musical genre, history, relevance, and elements that distinguish a variety of music as well as their societal connections. Our music program provides an introduction to musical technology, production, songwriting, and professional performance for those that continue after the required core curriculum appreciation course. Select students may serve as conductors for our own concerts, participate in all state and all city bands, an annual chamber music competition, and are exposed to, as guests or performers, impactful experiences at Lincoln Center and other world-renowned stages. Those participating in the All-City Modern Music Project and the Songwriters Hall of Fame produce work that is showcased on various social media platforms and receive feedback from field experts. Examples have included Ariana Grande's producer TV Hits and other successful country and music pop musicians. We are currently working with the support of the Parent Association Grants Writing Committee to transform space in the building for a recording studio that will further enhance our offerings and preparations for those seriously considering a career in music. Students gain confidence with presentational communication, working collaboratively, and implementing feedback with regards to public and digital performances. Following or as part of their 3-year world language sequence, depending on where freshmen start here at STI, our AP World Language students are encouraged to pursue the New York State Seal of Biliteracy. This distinguishes them from other high school graduates by validating their ability as at least biliterate, making them both more marketable and prepared for global opportunities and careers. As a Global Navigator school, students are able to apply for summer study abroad scholarships. Living with a host family and studying in another country builds confidence, independence, global citizenship, and enhances cultural awareness. Boomerang Conversations, currently offered in French, German, and Spanish, and the Global Classmates project in our Japanese classes offer cultural connections and enhanced opportunities for spontaneous and authentic practice commanding these target language. Student academic articles, opinion pieces, and research have been published in target language magazines. Language learners participate in and excel in national competitions and have been asked to speak as panel members at world language related events and engagements, including last year's CIEE Global Symposium. Students possess interpersonal communication skills in a second or third language, depending on their home language, which opens doors to future opportunities, enhances cultural awareness, builds confidence, compassion, and the essential skill of valuing the diversity, beliefs, and perspective of their community and global partners. And I'm going to stop there because I can just go on and on. I'm so proud of our art, music, and world language departments. But again, please let us know if there are other things that you would like to see or professions that you're interested in that we can prepare you for in these departments especially. And I'll take questions after as well. I'm going to introduce Ms. Fong, who'll speak to you a little bit about our biology department.
Right, hello. Can I do a screen share? I have some PowerPoint slides. Okay.
Yes, give me 1 second, Ms. Fong.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
You should be able to share now.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Do you see the slide? It should say biology. Do you see it?
Not yet. Not yet. It's not there. Did you select the screen?
Yes. Okay.
You have to hit share screen at the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to do share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, great. Do you
Now you
see
got
it
it.
now? Yeah,
Yep.
great. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, so one of the things that Principal Yu stressed was how do we prepare our STI students, all right, beyond our elementary courses, all right? And one of the things that the biology department has been very good at, you know, in terms of preparing students with different types of interests. At this young point in their lives, they will think, oh, I want to go into some type of medical profession or whatever. But we have a whole spectrum and host of electives to address their young interests and passions now to make sure this is what they want to major when they go into college, all right? So biology is the entry level 9th grade course, and then that goes to chemistry and then physics, and then there are 2 extra science electives to get the 4-year STI diploma. Okay, so freshman year in terms of diversity of courses, years ago, we just basically had, you know, 1 biology course, but our entering freshmen, all right, come from different academic backgrounds, different schools, all right, so we are addressing those needs. Our traditional course is our honors modern biology course, where the students will culminate taking the living environment regents, all right? And we have a highly specialized course that started about 4 or 5 years ago. It's only offered in the spring term right now. It's taught by Ms. Chan. It's what we call our little farm team course. These are students at such a young age interested in being possible future biology researchers, or at least they're investigating that thought, all right? So they do a lot of student-generated projects, all right? And for students that have already taken Regents Living Environment, there is a specialized AP Biology freshman course, and it's taught in a very wonderful way by 2 teachers, all right? Miss Maggio, who's on the committee, and Miss Quenzer, all right? And they're doing a lot of innovative things, and they're doing a lot of projects, they're doing case studies, student presentations, and a lot of this we've done this before the pandemic, but as a result of the pandemic, a lot of alternative learning styles have come out of this. Then another new course, again, that's been introduced at the same time as the AP Biology for freshmen is what we call the Apes for Freshmen, AP Environmental Science, taught by Mr. McClellan and Mr. Jerry Citron. All right. And these students, all right, investigate current science trends and problems in environmental science. And we hope that when they leave the course, they will become environmental advocates. And some of them do. Okay. So those are some of the freshman courses. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay. So sophomore year. All right. So the human disease course, all right, taught by Mr. Citron, all right, started out as primarily a sophomore course. Sophomores can still enroll in it, but interestingly enough, more and more juniors and seniors have become interested in it because a lot of our young population at this stage in their life, they all want to be medical doctors, so they want to take medically oriented health service courses, all right. The second one, molecular science and genetics, is exclusively a sophomore class. It's 1 year, all right. It's a academically chosen class by me, right, and it's taught by a teacher, Mr. Papagayo, who has experience in molecular biology, all right. Matter of fact, his studies for his PhD, which I think he was all but dissertation, was the biochemistry of proteins, and he does discuss that in detail, all right? And Mr. Economy started this year, sophomore Regeneron class. We found out that down to the years, it's best to start them early and place them after their sophomore year in a lab articulation and not wait for the end of the junior year, because there are other schools, our sister science schools, that are also competing for these very few precious spots. Biological lab techniques, again, a class that's predominant for sophomores, but more and more juniors and seniors have applied. And human genetics and research, okay, Dr. Nebedek, who's on SLT, hi there, all right, she teaches it. The fall term, she teaches, okay, genetics research, and currently she's teaching human genetics. And interestingly enough, she teaches it in a very case study way where students choose very interesting genetic disorders and really elaborates at student presentations. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide, hang on. All right, and these are courses for juniors and seniors, all right? If there are any slots open, which rarely are, sometimes if a little sophomore too might slip in, all right? Physical anthropology and sociobiology is taught basically during the fall semester by Ms. Wah. Medical diagnosis, as a fancy term now, human pathophysiology, taught by Mr. Citron this past fall semester. Very popular course. There's always more students beating down the door than we have sections for. And medical ethics is taught every now and then in the spring term by Ms. Wah. And it's a very interesting course. The students that attend this course, they decide for that particular spring term what would be the most current, okay, medical ethical problem, and they get together outside experts to come and do a medical ethics symposium, which is after school. And it's usually standing room only, all right? And so the next time she teaches that, I would encourage her to reinstate this medical ethics symposium. Nutrition science, which is taught fall and spring, okay, currently is taught by Ms. Banfield, and she's doing some very interesting things, bringing in guest speakers and talking about nutrition science from a cultural perspective, introducing DEI, and also looking at past cultures where they use food as medicine. Then urban ecology, Ms. Maggio, who's on SLT, she teaches that. She started this course a few years ago, and it's taught fall and spring. Primarily, it started with sophomores, but again, we have very, very interested juniors and seniors, and they're currently designing green building structures. So if you come to 709, you see, you know, a lot of their handiwork. And geology, which is currently given now, is taught by Mr. McClellan, all right? And pre-pandemic, he would take them on many, field trips. And one was to Fort Tryon to see the effects of the receding glaciers, all right, and forming a lot of the rock formations there. And engineering design taught this year, this term by Ms. Wah. It's a very interesting course. The students have to look at current environmental problems, population problems, such as how do we purify water using a very simple system of filtration, all right? How do we redesign our farming to feed the billions of people, all right? So she actually proposes real current environmental population health problems to her class, and they have to come up with ingenious designs. Oceanography, again, taught by Mr. McClellan this past fall term. And we have junior and senior Regeneron. Senior Regeneron is what I call our camera ready research class where the students submit their papers to Regeneron. And I'm happy to report that Mr. Economy, who teaches junior and senior Regeneron, so far he's gotten over 30 laboratory articulations in person for our students. And forensic science is one of our most popular biology electives. It was so popular that this particular term, we created 3 more, sections. Okay, and
Hey, Ms. Fong?
Yes.
In the interest of time, if you could offer more of a summary of the courses.
Yes, matter of
because
fact.
we're actually over now for this section.
Okay, so I have just 2 more slides and I'm done. And AP courses, for juniors and seniors, because we talked about AP Bio and Environmental Science for freshmen. Here they are. And this course, medical internship, prior to the pandemic, students in their final term of their senior year would actually get articulations in hospitals. And finally, extracurriculars, and these are the competitions. And I just want to mention Science Olympiad. Last Saturday, we're #1 in the city. We medaled in all 21 events. We accumulated 45 medals and 11 first place. All right, and Genes in Space, Ms. Quenza, she has mentored 3 finalists, and their proposals, lab proposals, have been experimented on in the International Orbiting Space Station. Okay, and I'm done. And thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Fong.
Just want to open up for any questions. Again, this was just a piece of this, so just wanting to make sure we answer any questions that people might have. Mr. Shaffron.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the information. And it is fascinating to see how much biology and music and art and world languages department are doing and what's done there. But at this point, I'm confused that this was intended to be a glimpse into the general approach to what the school is doing overall. This feels somewhat imbalanced because we as a school are known for both math and science and computer science and humanities and other subjects. So I'm a little bit, if this is the sort of the end of our topic of discussion for today, I'm afraid I have to say that this is we didn't cover the general approach. That's point number 1. Point number 2, I really want to applaud the point that Mimi made in the very beginning. It's really, yes, there's a concept of knowledge and there's a concept of skills. So it's really, really great to see that we're focusing on this. And that is terrific. But one point I wanted to call out is that there is a general feeling that we do spend a lot of time preparation for college, and there are a lot of college events, and how do you get into college, and what do you need to get into in order to get. But And it's an open question. Do we do enough as a community for our students to explore different professions and different career paths? It's not a statement. It is an open-ended question. I think we do give a lot of opportunities to learn certain skills, but I think we also, I wonder if, yeah, I mean, really would like to talk about it. And the last point I want to bring up, and this is, Principal Yu, maybe this is a point for you to consider. When we're making decisions about facilities, I'm in full support, and this is great what we're doing, but there's one point to kind of find the right balance between building facilities versus and spending the money there versus forming partnerships and utilizing somebody else who is in the position to keep them current. Because even if we are going to spend all the money and build certain labs or do certain things to maintain them, we may not have enough funds as community to keep them as current as they often need to be. So how do we form these partnerships? How do we create the environment where we have those resources? So I know I've kind of brought three key points, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
Ms. Maggio?
Hey, Mr. Shafran, and everybody, what's up? I think I can answer a couple of those points. So I know that I can speak about one of those points that I've done with my students. And I think you probably received a bunch of those emails over the last 4 years because you were still on my email list until this year. So we've had a partnership with Molloy College I have had. And so freshmen have been going to Molloy College Saturday seminars to learn about professions in science, but it's not like I'm a doctor. It's like I'm a marine scientist. And the Environmental Club has had a really big series of lectures from different research scientists. Like just maybe 2 weeks ago, we had 150 kids in a Zoom with the Arctic microbiologist who came to talk to us. And so I have always sent out those emails, and Dina has put those into the newsletters for me whenever those have been available, so that to get kids to know that there's more than just like, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm going into finance, which is like the 3 things the freshmen know about when they walk into Stuyvesant. My goal every year is to turn as many of them into an environmentalist as possible. The other thing I'd like to say with the new hydroponics lab is that the way that it's been envisioned and been designed by myself and Mr. Citron and Mr. McClellan is that it's going to be a working research lab. And so while the environmental science classes are going to have their labs in there as well, Mr. Citron is creating a new he's envisioning a new climate science class that's going to look at ways in which to do research to fight climate change and the ways in which to make impacts on climate change. And the lab itself is going to be very mobile and very adaptable. So, which is super exciting to think about, that we're going to be able to have multiple classes running experiments continuously while also growing some veggies that we can like use in the cafeteria and raising corals and trying to look at what's the effect of climate change on coral reef populations, all of which is some of the most cutting edge science. And then working with the alumni who want to see, well, how can we transition this into a true climate science lab? Because this is going to be one of the most important fields in the future for their future, because, you know, we haven't done a good job for them in that aspect. So I know that there are other teachers in other departments who do coordinate to get the idea of like, what are different fields of like to work in. But it would be nice if we did some kind of maybe, I don't know, but it does happen at some level. That was all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Ms. Maggio. I do not see any other hands raised, so we'll
Never mind.
Okay, Dr. Ned Widick-Moore.
So I just wanted to add, having been a student here also, I just wanted to sort of give a shout out to Ms. Pedrick and the entire counseling staff, because when I went to Stuyvesant, there were 2 guidance counselors and there was 1 like college office. And it was a very, very small staff, and they supported us and told it. I mean, my mother and father and I were clueless, really. and we did a lot of homework, but Stuyvesant also provided an enormous infrastructure for making sure that we could do all that and knew what the heck we were doing. And now it's sort of vastly expanded. You know, I think there's like a hidden Ivies thing that Ms. Pedrick does, and there are a bunch of really, and Ms. Pedrick and all of the counseling staff and Mr. Macris and Ms. Wilson and Ms. Hughes and, oh my God, am I leaving anyone out? Angela, probably. I think I got them all though. They do an enormous amount of hands-on outreach to make sure that students know what their options are, what the timelines are, what the trajectories are, how to implement it all. And I know I'm biology, but I'm telling them because the infrastructure is essential to the success that our students have in the college process. And I mean, I talk about college readiness all the time in my classes, just generally, having been an academic scientist and having left it to teach, to sort of bring all that back to my students. I think everyone in biology, but not just in biology, I think all of us have sort of, many Stuyvesant teachers have left careers, like real careers outside of teaching, to come back to bring that to the students. And I just wanted to sort of put that out there.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nevick-Moore. Ms. Pedrick?
First, I need to check, Brandon, are you thinking what I'm thinking about sharing?
Sophomore meeting.
Go for it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking in. So I just want everyone to know that sophomores during this time, most likely in March all the way to June, the counselors meet with the sophomores in small group sessions where we do the college career readiness counseling sessions with them. It's a small group and they start to explore careers. We start talking about colleges, and it's all done through Naviance. So any parents here, please, I'm encouraging them to please make sure to log on to their Naviance, because that is what we use for that particular workshop with our sophomores.
Thank you. Just to build upon that, yes, right before COVID hit, we had gotten a grant through the College Access for All, and we opted to create something called a Naviance Nook, and the counselors created a curriculum from scratch to be able to introduce students to overall careers and get them started on that Naviance tool, which is a wealth of career exploration. I have to go home. Career exploration activities.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pedrick. We are way over now on this section. So Mr. Henderson, if you could finish.
I'll be very quick, moderately quick. Two things I want to say very quickly. One is Mr. Shafran's suggestion that we try to orient the school around career and around doing things rather than about just getting into college strikes me as great. Because I think from the moment most students enter Stuyvesant, we angle them towards thinking about college rather than thinking about doing things, making things. And I think that's a cause of some trouble we have, including like cheating and competition in bad ways. So that's the one thing. And the second thing is this is a complication that I just want to have in the air, because we are such a full building, and when there are a lot of electives in one department, that tends to mean that there are not electives in another department. And so I'm going to be territorial here, but for many years, English department has not been able to have many electives at all. If we had more teachers, we could have more classes and more kinds of classes that would be looking beyond just the core. Anyway, there you go. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Henderson. And now if we can go to the number 5 on the agenda, the observer comments. Ms. Ingram, could you?
Leah Espinoff is permitted to talk if she is here.
Hi, I'm Leah Esipov. Yes, I'm here. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a non-binary member of the STI community. I just wanted to reinforce the importance of educating the STI community about just like the LGBTQ community. STI is a place to grow as a person academically and also in terms of self-awareness. Educating students about queer identities exposes everyone to people different to them, something that helps the open-mindedness of everyone. STI should feel like a comfortable place to explore oneself, something that gender is a massive part of. I cannot express how much I bloomed as an individual after coming out, which was directly reflected in my academic ambitions as it lifted a weight off my shoulders and allowed me to be more genuine to myself. I had more mental clarity to focus on personal passions rather than fighting with dysphoria thoughts. I also wouldn't have had that experience of coming out of the good experience of coming out that I did without the support from my amazing queer and ally friends that I made at STI. Lessons in just increasing awareness about the LGBTQ community can help students realize where they may fall short in being an ally and a supportive student body member, especially if they don't identify with these communities. Sometimes people can make insensitive jokes and comments simply because they're uneducated of their harmful effects. And also, having a gender neutral bathroom is imperative to allow students to focus on things beyond their gender. Students should not be worrying about like not drinking, not eating during the day because they don't have a place where they can use the bathroom without entering like a state of dysphoria and stress. That's like ridiculous. And yeah, I understand this is like a relatively new thing, I guess like amongst the Gen Z communities, but like that doesn't make it any less important or relevant because it is real, you know, it's not just something we're making up. Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you for that. Ms. Ingram, there was another.
There's another comment from Mr. Wei Feng. You can unmute. If you'd like to make your comment, Wei Feng. They may have changed their mind. And I think that was your last commenter that is here present at the meeting.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ingram, for introducing the observer. And that concludes all of our topics for the February SLT meeting, Stuyvesant High School. And I'd like to wish all the best to all the attendees tonight and the entire Stuyvesant High School committee. And with that, I would ask if there is a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
And a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. And then a raising of your hands to confirm this electronically or physically your hand. Thank you. And we have a screenshot. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting, this February meeting. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Dr. Haber.
Goodbye, everyone.
Good night.